So I've been hearing a lot of talk lately about this strong female character. Like, why don't they have more strong female characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Or, have you seen The Hunger Games? I love that movie. It's so nice that we finally have a movie with a strong female character. You know what bugs me about this? Not all women are strong. Now wait, don't freak out. Don't freak out. I'm gonna explain. No one goes around saying, it was so nice to see a strong male character in that movie. Instead they say things like, I loved Iron Man, or I love Luke Skywalker. These are some beloved male characters. And the thing about these characters is that they're not strong all the time. Iron Man struggles with alcoholism, he struggles with being a jerk to his friends. Luke Skywalker lets himself be tempted by the dark side. He falls down a couple of times. He's not strong all the time. But you know what? It's that human struggle that makes these characters interesting and complex. And that's what I'd like to see in a female character. So maybe we can ditch the term strong female character and instead replace it with something like complex female character. And now you're saying, yeah, sure, but isn't it important to push for strong female characters? Don't our daughters need people that they can look up to? Don't they need role models in the movie that they can strive to be? Well, of course. Media has such a strong influence on kids, especially, that I think it's essential for us to have characters that girls can look up to. I love seeing characters like, for example, Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager, who taught me that women could be Starfleet captains, or Princess Leia and Rey from the Star Wars movies. I'm not going to mention Padme because the prequels don't count. What about Ripley from Aliens, or Furiosa from the new Mad Max movie? What about Mrs. Cooper from Night of the Hunter, which probably none of you have ever seen, so you should go rent it because it's awesome. These are all strong women, and they're also very complex women that struggle, and they're not strong all the time, and that's awesome. But they're characters that our daughters can look up to. Pushing for the strong female character in and of itself is not a problem, or rather pushing for complex female characters is not a problem. When this push comes, though, in every situation all the time, whether it makes sense or not, you get what I like to call the shoehorned female character. So the shoehorned female character is that character that the writers add to the movie to prove they aren't sexist. So they wrote a really awesome script, it just happened to have all male characters in it, and then the producer came up and he was like, wait, there's no strong female characters in there, you gotta add one because we have to prove that we're not sexist and people are complaining about it on the internet. And so they're like, well, okay, let's make her super sexy and put her in super tight leather, but you know what? She's a good fighter. So she's strong because she's a good fighter. Usually these characters are super shallow, they're really, really stereotypical, and quite honestly, they're just as sexist as not having a female character in the movie at all. If you're a dude and you like to write stories about dudes and you're good at that, go for it.
Well, there were 11 votes for guilty. It's not easy to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without talking about it first.
And I pronounce you man a knife.
I'm not gonna call you sexist because you're a guy and you write guys and there doesn't happen to be a role in your movie for a woman. I'm not gonna make you shoehorn a woman into that role. That doesn't make any sense. One of my favorite examples is the Hobbit movies that just came out. The Hobbit is probably one of my favorite books of all time. I love it more than The Lord of the Rings because I am weird like that. When I was reading that book growing up, never once was I like, you know what? This book needs more female characters in it. Like, I never even thought about that. I was so lost in the characters and the world that it never even occurred to me that they were a bunch of guys. That didn't come up. It wasn't an issue at all. When they made the movie, they felt like they needed to add that female character in, so they added this generic elf, Tariel. And they put her in a love triangle, because women have to have romances all the time. And she sit there being like emotionally torn between this dwarf and Legolas, and it's like the stupidest It's like a 15-year-old wrote fan fiction or something. It's just awful. There's no depth to this character. She's like super dependent on her men. She falls in love super fast, and then she's torn and conflicted. Oh, but she's a really good shooter with a bow and arrow, and she can fight orcs, so she's a strong female character. Let me kind of give you another example. Let's talk about my favorite studio of all time, which is Pixar, because all of their movies are awesome. Even the ones that are not awesome are still awesome because they are that good. I can't think of a bad Pixar movie. I really can't. I haven't seen any of the Cars movies, though. I've heard mixed things about those. Pixar made a bunch of really awesome movies, and people started complaining, well, why don't you have a strong female lead in any of your movies? And this was coming up quite a bit. So finally, big news broke. They're gonna make a movie that has a female lead. And I was like, ooh, this is gonna be pretty cool. So I saw the trailer for Brave that came out. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a story about a princess who doesn't want to get married. I've seen this story a couple dozen places before, but you know what? This is Pixar, so they're gonna put some new twist on it that I haven't seen, because Pixar is awesome. And then I went and saw Brave, and it was an awesome movie, and I loved it, but that twist I was looking for wasn't there. It was a story of a princess who didn't want to get married, and that was their big breakout female movie. It felt very forced and shoehorned. We've got to do a movie about a strong female character? Let's do a story about a princess who doesn't want to get married. Well, then we get a movie that is quite original. Inside Out. If you haven't seen that movie, you need to see it. Bring tissues because you will cry. It is an awesome movie, and that's another movie where never once was I watching and being like, it's so awesome to see these female characters. It's a movie where the main character happened to be a girl, and it fit the movie, and it felt so natural that I wasn't even thinking about it. And that's awesome. That's what I want to see when I'm looking for that strong female character. Is sexism an issue in Hollywood? Yes, it is. Do we need more complex female characters? Do we need more characters that our daughters can look up to as role models? Absolutely we do. How do we get those characters, though? How do we get characters that are complex and natural and awesome and we want to watch over and over again? The answer is, I think, pretty simple. I want to see more female writers and more female directors in Hollywood. Heck, I just want to see more women in Hollywood. Think about the strong female characters that we do have in Hollywood. The Hunger Games, all the women characters from Harry Potter. Where do those characters come from? They come from books that were written by women. So there you go. You want more strong female characters, get more women working in Hollywood, and they will naturally appear, and you won't have to force anyone into anything. And you know what? Maybe we'll get a movie that's just entirely chicks, and the characters feel natural, and it works, and it's awesome. And you know what? I'd be totally okay with that. I'm also okay with movies that are entirely dudes, as long as it is well written and fun and awesome.
His shoe is bigger than this car. Show something!
Okay, I think I'm done. Like, I guess every internet person has to do a rant at some point, so this is my rant. So I'm gonna go take a nap or something, because I'm done.
I applaud you for doing the whole video without mentioning the Ghostbusters reboot.
Let's not talk about that. Okay, here's the thing about that, though, Joe. I was not really a huge fan of the first Ghostbusters, so I don't even really care. The trailer was like, meh. I just don't have an opinion about it, Joe. I don't have an opinion about it because I wasn't crazy about the first Ghostbusters, so I don't have an opinion about the second one. It looked like every other dumb comedy that comes out, Joe. Stop pressuring me with your white male domineering ideas.